Hello, it's Jen here, and welcome to another Wellbeing Wednesday. And today, I just wanted to share some tips and some suggestions for really making the choice to be happy, because we have got tricky brains, and our brains haven't necessarily developed and evolved to be happy. They've really developed to keep us safe, to keep us alive, to keep us away from danger. So we can be constantly scanning the environment and the news and our phones for risk and danger, and that can really activate our threat state and keep us in quite a stressed state, which can affect us in all sorts of different ways. It can make our sleep not so good. It can mean that we're worrying a lot about going out. It can mean that we are more irritable with our families, all sorts of things. Our immune system doesn't work so well. But our brains are also quite amazing because they have this capacity to change, and we can reprogram them. We can create new neural pathways in our brain. And we can do that by thinking new thoughts, and we can do that by taking new actions and really supporting ourselves. So here are some of my thoughts. There are many more. So one thing that we can do for ourselves to help us to orientate towards happiness is to do something kind for someone. Kindness is a fantastic way to activate our soothing system and activate these chemicals in our body that sometimes we call them the hug hormone, these chemicals that help us feel good. And just doing something kind can really help to switch that on, to activate that. At the end of the day, finding 3 good things that happened in the day can also do that. And sometimes it might be quite difficult, but they don't need to be big things. They can be really small things. Maybe you noticed the bird song. Maybe you did something kind for someone. Maybe something went well. Just even if you find one thing, that's enough to start building these new neural pathways in our brain and starting to rewire our brain for happiness, which just makes it a lot easier to feel happy. We can also practice mindfulness, and some of you might have been joining me with our Mindfulness Mondays, and you could just try eating one meal each day in a mindful way, or maybe one meal each week in a mindful way. Even having a mindful cup of tea, doing something in a conscious way, so you're not either thinking back over the past or thinking about the future, that you're just right here in the present moment. And you can also actively let the good in. And that is if you're out for a walk and you're walking in the park, no matter what else is happening in your life or round about you, you just stop for a moment and you look up and you notice the sky, or you notice the trees, or hear the birds, and you just really savor that experience. Just let it in. And that really has a big impact on us and our happiness. Maybe we can thank someone who's done something kind for us and let them know how grateful we are to them. And connection is really important as well for happiness. It can really help us feel our mood pick up if we're feeling down. And it's really important to keep connected. And actually keeping connected, but not necessarily always through our phones or through our tablets or computers. It's really hard at the moment, but it can be really useful just to, if you're having a walk in the park and you're walking past someone, just smile at them. Maybe say hello. just tiny moments of connection, can matter so much to someone else. Perhaps that person's feeling isolated and lonely, and your smile and you saying hello can really just lift their mood that day. You can ask for help if you need it. Maybe you're not feeling very good, and if you let somebody know, perhaps they can help you and they can help lift your mood. Because we have evolved to support each other, to work together. So being alone, being kind of isolated, it's much harder to pick ourselves up. So really connecting and asking for help when we need it, that's such a helpful skill to have. Difficult, but helpful. Also, just trying something new. And just going to share something that I'm trying new. I have just got a bike, just an ordinary kind of road bike, second hand, quite old. And I haven't really cycled since I was at school, so that's a very long time ago. And I'm going to wait until the park that I live next to is quite quiet, and I'm going to go and have a go and see if I can kind of get myself confident enough to cycle. What new thing could you try? Just expand your experience a bit. You know, you can make it also a mindful activity as well. You could listen to people in a different way. Sometimes active listening, that kind of listening where we're not planning anything else and we're not distracted, but we're really mindful and we're present and we're really with somebody and we're really listening deeply to them. And it can really help our experience of connecting. I find it really helpful, and I also notice that I can be quite a distracted listener, so I come back to this practice of active listening, and it always deepens my connection with people. And meditation. Again, we spoke about mindfulness earlier and maybe eating a mindful meal, but just maybe going back to some of the Mindfulness Mondays that we've been doing and just experimenting. If you've not experienced mindfulness meditation before, just experimenting and see how that might be for you. It might be difficult at the beginning, but it might be really helpful. And the last thing I wanted to offer is positive parenting. Now, I'm not a parent, but I do often work with parents. And when I talk about positive parenting, what I mean is, particularly when behaviour is a bit tricky, is really seeing the child or seeing the person rather than the behaviour, particularly rather than the difficult behaviour. Maybe the difficult behaviour that is really triggering for us. And if we've been juggling lots of other things in the day, and we're exhausted, you know, sometimes our tolerance isn't quite as great. So just coming back and really seeing the person and seeing the good in the person. So these are my suggestions of things that I'm going to be exploring, at least some of these this week. I'd love to hear what you thought, how you get on, and I hope you have a great week. And I look forward to seeing you again next week for another Wellbeing Wednesday. Thank you for joining me.